This video contains subject matter that may be offensive and disturbing to some people. If you are the type to require a warning throughout a video or show, let this message serve as your warning. This channel discusses the harsh reality of true crime. If this warning is not sufficient for you, consider a different genre and unsubscribe from my channel immediately. Yeah, I don't know if you remember me at all now, but I know you're probably...
Yes, I do now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the dark-haired guy with the visor and glasses, okay.
Yep, yep.
All right, well, yeah, I mean, last month we actually were able to send in, I think it was like $1,400. Hopefully that helps out.
Yes, oh God, as busy as we are, and of course with the pandemic and everything, our fundraiser has been canceled, everything's been canceled, but our calls have been more. I can't even count the drownings we've been on and suicides that we've been on, and not counting other things. And I just got called down in Victoria, Texas, on undoubtedly a homicide, and looks like going to be doing that. So yeah, pandemic hasn't slowed down what we're doing except our money.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to. I saw you give that. I don't know where that was, but it was on some news channel talking about that very thing. So we kind of upped it a little bit. I'll keep trying to. Actually, what I'll be doing is probably keep adding money every month. Yeah, I mean, you guys are so amazing. Let me ask you something. I've been talking. I made a video last night on the Kelsey Smith case, and then I interviewed her just right before I called you, really. And I said, hey, you guys should get a hold of Texas Equusearch. And apparently, she has talked to you specifically. It's the one where Echo, the mother Echo, Michelle Lloyd.
You know what? I can tell you what's going on there. And I have been in touch with that sheriff up there and talked to him several times. God bless Kelsey, of course, when you never go through this, and we hope nobody ever does have to experience a loss of a loved one and everything. At times we get impatient. We're thinking with our heart and not our head, and I certainly felt guilty of that when Lloyd disappeared and throughout the years. Mm-hmm. I know this for a fact. The sheriff, things are definitely moving forward in that investigation. And I told Kelsey that the other day, and I said, Kelsey, I encourage you to sit down and talk with the sheriff. And he can't tell you everything that's going on this investigation. But things are moving forward. I know that the sheriff is working on getting some search warrants and some subpoenas and this, that, and the other. And unfortunately, it just doesn't happen as quick as we would want it to happen. I mean, even with the military, on Vanessa's case up there, it was 50-plus days before they got phone records and stuff back that started leading us in directions that we needed to go. So,
yeah.
And you know what? 10 years ago, we used to have a U.S. Marshal in South Carolina, and when we would have something, and we would call them up, give them a phone number, and this, that, and the other, and everything, and literally within 20 minutes, you'd have information back to us. Things have changed so much that now you have got to have some good information. You got to go to a judge. A judge has got to look at this and say, well, yeah, this is enough information for me to go ahead and sign off to get a subpoena. Then, even if they do that, then getting it to the phone companies, and in this modern world of technology we live in, we would think it could happen sooner than that. And you know what? It all depends on the damn case, on how aggressive they are. So,
yeah.
My belief is they're all just as important, whether it's a high profile or if it's a, crack addict on the street that somebody murdered. But it doesn't always work out like that.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. We've covered cases where in Lumberton there was 3 women that were killed. They were prostitutes. And the thing is,
Uh-huh.
police don't, they do a triage of, hey, if there's a, 17-year-old girl walking down the street and going to school and abducted, they're going to focus more on that first if they have limited
Yeah.
resources than the 3 prostitutes that were found murdered. Right? I mean,
Right. Yep.
and it kind of sucks. I mean, it sucks because they're
Well,
people
it
too.
does. It does. I mean, and that's that's a big deal in my own daughter Laura's case when I reported her missing. They just listed her as a runaway. I knew she wasn't. I couldn't get an ounce of help. Period. The end. And then when their bodies were found, and then Lake City Police Department puts out, oh yeah, one of the girls is a known drug addict. The other one is a known runaway. The other 2 are transients when they weren't even positively identified. Didn't even know who the hell they were. It's like, I went to Lake City Police Department and raised all kinds of hell and said, you know what? You're labeling these girls, and basically you're giving somebody a license to go ahead and kill them. I'd say, and
right, and that's why they're the victims. Like serial killers love prostitutes. It's the craziest thing ever.
Oh yeah,
because they know that even if they go missing, they're not really going to be investigating as hard.
Yeah.
Hey, let me ask you something in that Vanessa Guillen case because I covered that one too. When you guys were right there, I think it was right by that little overpass of the river.
Right, the river.
Yeah, right in that little. So just right off to the side there in those. I actually have it narrowed down to the exact spot where you guys were, but it was in those woods right there. And you said on there that you guys even maybe walked right over that spot. Was it that well concealed?
Oh yeah, no, it was that well concealed. It was. I mean, we're the ones that found the burn pile, found the partial lid to the tough box and everything, and their investigators said, "Oh no, that doesn't have anything to do with it." And then when we finally had to Google a picture of the tough box and show it to him, he said, oh, well, maybe it does, but we had a lot of convincing to do. That's when then they decided to get Texas Rangers out there. Well, you know what? They didn't even at that point in time. We got a probe, and we put a probe in the ground where the burn pile was. That probe went down really easy for about 3 feet. And then on each side of the burn pile outside of it, you couldn't even get the probe in the ground. And then that's when we said, don't you think you ought to take a look at this a little bit closer? So that's when they got the Rangers in. Then they dug it and everything. And the biggest problem that happened then is I could say I was standing on top of her body. I mean, that's how good it was concealed. But then they brought in that cadaver dog.
Mm-hmm.
They put that cadaver dog around that pile. That cadaver dog walked all around there and did not alert on a thing. And then the cadaver dog went down to the river and alerted on a rock down at the river. So then that's when the investigator said, all right, well, now we know he threw her in the river, and then he just burnt the evidence over there. So, everybody started focusing on this damn stupid-ass cadaver dog.
Yeah.
And we have, and the dog people hate me, and that's okay. But I will guarantee you we have found at least 30 bodies that cadaver dogs were almost on top of and missed. And I'll guarantee you we probably dug at least 30 holes where cadaver dogs alerted, and there was nothing there. So when these hillbillies go ahead and put all their faith in one dog, well, that's what screwed up everything, because if we would have concentrated on that area more, I don't think it would have been a week later. Yeah. But no, the cadaver dog threw everything off in that case. So, it's...
Jeez, that's crazy. I mean, I often question that too, sometimes on my show, just about they alert, but does that always mean that they alerted on anything? I mean, it's because it doesn't seem like sometimes they alert on things and there's nothing there at all, just like you just said.
Well, it's been there. I mean, we've had cadaver dogs literally on top of bodies, and a dog handler came out and says, you know what, you're in the wrong spot. We put both dogs out there. We found one cow bone. We put both dogs on it. Neither dog alerted. we go out there doing a search, and what they thought was a cow bone in the victim's knee sticking out of the ground. And I promise you that is 100% true on Kenneth Cummings' case that we worked. It's, but when you talk to the dog handlers, every single dog handler is going to tell you that their dog found Jimmy Hoffa, they're just waiting for positive identification.
Right, yeah. That's just a defense. Hey, let me ask you this. So somebody in that case, now I'm switched over to that one, I guess, but remember that there was a witness that went there to fix a fence. How did they see something? I mean, if it was so well hidden.
The witness that did what now?
Well, I guess in the media that they said that a person fixing the fence in the Vanessa Guillen case saw
what
something.
There was, that fence was not up. I don't know. There's probably, 40 or 50 acres there. Yeah. And when Vanessa disappeared, there was not a fence there. So it was probably about 4 weeks after Vanessa disappeared, the rancher decided to go ahead and build a fence. And so I guess he's going to run cattle in there, Mm-hmm. The fence was not complete. The fence was all ran and everything, but all the wire ties and everything, to hold it to the poles and everything, wasn't completed. So they was going around completing that fence, and then got that foul odor, and it was very close to the fence, and went to it and seen what they appeared to be human hair, and then called 911. But now how that happened is that my girlfriend and me were just there 2 days prior, and there still wasn't anything. So how God works, not man, is that animals then decided to go ahead, that they certainly had a better nose than that damn cadaver dog, and start digging the area up.
Yeah.
Now it exposed it, the foul odor came out, and then some bones animals carried some bones out and stuff. So, no, it was, in my belief, it worked out exactly the way it was supposed to work out. It's, it was a very gruesome sight. I mean, we're all pretty seasoned people out there, but you know what? I'm glad it worked out that way, because, I think if we would have even found things like that.
She might not have ever been found had that guy not built the fence, right?
Yeah, if they would not have been working on that fence at that time, probably a day after the animals dug it up and everything, she probably would have never, ever been found, ever.
Right, because it was already ruled out, right? Like you guys were standing there, there's nothing to see here. And
I was ruled out. She was in the water, and if she was in the water, I knew then the chances are that, she's probably never ever going to be found after 70-plus days. Her body's decomposed. You're never going to be able to make out any remains, bones, or anything like that, no matter what kind of sonar you pick with all the debris and everything that was at the bottom.
All right.
You're never going to be able to determine what's what. So, it worked out the very best way it could have worked out. Again, if they wouldn't have been at that spot, at that fence, at that time, no. We would have done the river and said, God, we came up with nothing, and she would have never, ever been found.
Wow. That's weird, because I even said that on the show. I said that I think a dog must have... She was well hidden, and then a dog must have dug her out, or a coyote is what I said. So that's
there was some armadillos and stuff when we was over there on Sunday, and there's some wild hogs, and so
weird.
Who knows what animal dug her out, but whatever it was, it did an incredible job.
That's so crazy that you actually saw the that case out there, and it was big enough to have a body in it. There was no alerting on that either? I mean, it seems like there would have been.
No, nothing. And then, probably only 6 feet away is where the body was buried. And,
why'd they leave that there?
Again, in defense, he did a hell of a good job in concealing it by putting it down, then putting lime, and then mixing concrete, put over it, and then put dirt over top of it. And, after this many days, and there was a couple rains and stuff, so it just literally it blended in with everything. I mean, I'm guilty. I know I was standing on top of her at one time or another. I have no doubt.
Yeah, that's insane. I mean, the guy took that much. I mean, it was smart, but why would you leave the trunk sitting there? I mean, all that work to conceal it, and then you leave the trunk right there.
Yeah, well, I think that he felt as though that thing burnt entirely, and it and it did, except for maybe 40% of that lid.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, there was only about 40% of that lid there. I mean, there was melted plastic there that you would have never been able to tell what it was from if it wouldn't have been for just that little bit of the lid that did not burn. So,
wow.
Yeah, it worked out. But yeah, when the dog didn't alert on anything there and alerted down there in the river, well, everybody's focus went to the river. And again,
yeah,
my experience with dogs has not been good. But then even myself, I said, you know what? Even though we've never had any luck with any dogs, you know what? It certainly is possible. He did throw her over the bridge, and the current carried her, and she hit up against this rock, and I said, you know what, let's go ahead and give the dog the benefit of the doubt this time, and we have to do whatever we can do in the river now. So,
yeah,
that certainly wasn't the case.
Yeah, well, good work out there anyway, regardless. I mean, you were right there, you were in the right spot.
Yeah. Well, and the military at that point in time didn't think that burn pile had anything to do with anything. They just thought, somebody was out there, they burnt some trash, and they was probably fishing, and this, that, and the other, and
even though the phone pinged there.
We had a fairly difficult time convincing them in the beginning that we might ought to look at this a little closer, and they wouldn't do it. And then one of our members Googled that tough box and everything, and then we took our detective and showed him and said, listen, you have any more interest now, and look at how similar they are. And then when we went and got that probe and put it down in the ground, and it was like, maybe we ought to just check this out while we're here,
Yeah.
And so then when they brought the Rangers and everything in, well, then it made sense. We knew that his phone pinged out there that night for almost 2 hours, and the tree branches were burning about 15 feet up in the air. I mean, he had pretty good fire going. It's hard to believe that nobody's seen the fire.
Yeah, that's weird. Right off the road there, like driving by, you'd see it through the trees, and maybe you would even have called in, but it was probably so late at night. I think, wasn't it like 2 a.m, or I can't remember now exactly.
Yeah, it started like 1. Yeah, right at 2 a.m. until 3:45 a.m.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you about now I'll switch back really quick to, are you going to be working with the Echo Michelle Lloyd case at all? Or?
You know what? The sheriff actually texted me the day before yesterday and said, I feel as though you guys have got the best resources of any organization that we have talked to, and if we get this information back in the investigation, are you willing to come up and help search? And we said, Sheriff, yes, we will. Yes, we will.
Oh, great.
But there was some drama stuff going on and everything. But I told the sheriff, I said, you know what? I want out of it. I'm washing my hands of it right now. We're going to take it off the website, and we're going to keep this under the radar, and we're going to keep it quiet. We do not need the publicity, and we don't need all these calls and everything coming into us. So, yes, when this investigation leads you to a point where you need us, I'm a phone call away, and we are on our way.
Oh, that's awesome. See, that's why you guys are the best. I always tell people that, there was I don't know if you heard of the Allison Watterson case here in Oregon. I was trying to get them, early on out there. They did find her. It was just total miraculous find. She was in the middle of blackberry bushes. That there's no way she could have just walked there. It was crazy, but
right.
I don't know if they ever got a hold of you on that. I think the mother might have at one point. Misty, I don't know.
Yeah, at one time, but then we don't. Yeah, families got a hold of us and stuff, but then we do not get involved until. And we tell families, listen, it's up to you to call law enforcement. I said we're not Rambos that are just going to run in there and take stuff over. So it's up to you to go ahead and contact law enforcement. Now let them know you reached out to us, and we don't need a request to come in, which many law enforcement agencies call us and request our help, but all we need is approval to come in. And they say, why can't you come now? And I tell them, well, you know what? Detectives could be working on something in the investigation, and I want to keep it quiet. And all we have to do is show up, and then it's not quiet anymore. The last thing we're going to do is go ahead and interfere in an investigation. And, these detectives have the most difficult time as it is trying to sort things out. So, many things we do, we don't even put on our website. And because of now the wonderful world of social media is, it's a big help in some areas, but oh my God, it's what it has hurt in some other areas. So yeah, some of these sensitive cases, sensitive things where we're afraid that maybe a person of interest may flee or something.
Right.
You know what? Once in a while, silence is the best thing.
Yeah, so do you think that's what's going on here in Echo's case?
Yeah, I think they're working on. I'm going to give that sheriff a lot of credit for what he's attempting to do. And again, it's just not as easy to do in today's world as it was even 5 years ago, was trying to get subpoenas and search warrants and different things. And,
right.
And we face this every day. I mean, so many investigators call us and say, man, we want you up here. We're trying to get some subpoenas and this, that, and the other. We're working a case down in Aransas Pass down in, by Corpus Christi right now, that they wanted to start digging up a body last Tuesday. And they had all this information in the world and witnesses and stuff. And then they decided, well, we're going to have to get a search warrant now. And they went to the judge to go ahead and get a search warrant, and the witnesses needed to go ahead and write up an affidavit and everything before the judge would sign a search warrant. Well, guess what? At the last minute now, the witnesses, they don't want to be involved and stuff. And so a case that we was literally supposed to start digging up a body last Tuesday is right now on hold because there's can't get people, the witnesses, to come forward, do affidavits and stuff to present to a judge to get a search warrant.
Jeez.
I mean, that's unfortunately it's a world we live in today.
Yeah, it's a kind of a nightmare sometimes.
Oh, it's a real nightmare. And then, of course, families want law enforcement to jump through hoops and do this and do that and just be like CSI on TV and solve a crime in an hour with eight commercials in between. And, unfortunately, it's not the real world we live in. But
I was going to say in the Echo,
I think we've all watched enough TV. We're all a little bit delusional.
Oh yeah, that's for damn sure. All these little things they have. Oh yeah, just throw some soil into a machine, and oh my God, it came back with. It's crazy. Like in 2 seconds.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work like that.
There's this quack going around. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's trying to pretend that he has a machine that he can stick into the soil and it'll detect DNA. I don't know if you've seen this guy, but
you know what? There was another dog handler that came up with this thing 10 years ago, and he had this dog, and if no matter where in the country, if detectives felt as though they had a buried body anywhere close, that they could get some soil, put in his machine, send up to him, he put it in a machine and stuff, and let his dog smell it, and it was like, oh, yay or nay, and it's like, that lasted about as long as it took for them to hang a phone up from it.
Well, there's still, there was just a story that came out 2 days ago. This lady just going, oh, it was the greatest thing in the world. They found, to me, it's like well witching. Well witchers only work because there's so much water under the ground that eventually they'll hit something. But and the thing is or like EVP readings. You ever seen those idiots that go out there and pretend that? Yeah, it just drives me nuts. Okay, the only thing that really works is the stuff that you guys do, the actual on the ground, scientific, getting cell phone information and searching in an area that maybe the cell phone stopped for an hour on a drive in the middle of the woods somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it put us in somewhat of an area. I mean, and again, all these, Monday morning quarterbacks there, and all these people are speculating and all the stuff that they put out there on Facebook and everything. I picked the wrong case. We worked in Ohio. Oh man, those social media people had Dad indicted, convicted, sentenced, and everything, and it ended up the little son on his way to school, autistic boy, decides to go on the neighbor's roof and go down the chimney, and was there for about a month. It was so accidental and so crazy, but oh no, Dad was again indicted, convicted, sentenced, and it ruined his life.
Yeah, no, I commented on both of those cases, and especially the first one that you were talking about with Shane. I think his name was Shane. I can't remember the name of the. Was it Boudreaux? No, I don't remember. But his name was Shane, the husband, in that case, and he was just. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's guilty. Look how he looks in that interview. Look how he looks in that interview." And you were on the scene in that one, and then they tracked it down, and it was the friend of the wife. It was crazy.
Yeah, the wife's friend, and the baby was right here in Houston, and it's like, no, Shane's life will never be the same. I mean, of course, Shane was 100% guilty, and I spent a lot of time with him when I left, and I became his friend, and we drove around, and I said, if she took off, if something was going on, where do you think she would go? Do you think she was chance she could harm her own self? She chose to harm her own self and the baby, and this, that, and the other, and we drove around places, and he said, no, she wouldn't harm herself. Why would she harm herself? And this, that, and the other, and, Shane probably drank a little bit more than he should drink, and I can't judge him for that, because there's a time in my life I did too, and thank God it's been many, many years since I had a drink, and we don't know how people react. We don't learn this stuff in grade school, junior high school, and college. Able to handle our emotions and what to do, and we got a missing wife and child. So, you actually, we had him guilty.
Yeah, you actually talked to you, but you even talked to the girl who did.
No, she told me how Shane did this and everything, and I talked to her a long time on the phone and everything, and when she was trying to convince me of this other stuff, she was probably holding the baby in her arms.
That's just incredible. Did you have were you suspicious of her at all, just listening to her? Because why would you be, though?
Not at all.
Wow.
None. I mean, she was telling me how abusive Shane was. She was telling me how much her wife wanted to get away from Shane, and this, that, and the other, and meeting Shane and everything. It was like, well, there probably is that side of him and stuff, and so then you're being convinced, and
wow.
We missed the boat. We did one in Costa Rica, and I already had this younger kid fingered on the disappearance of a 58-year-old guy out of Florida that went down there on vacation and everything, and a businessman, and I think I didn't have nothing to do with anything. I mean, this guy wandered out there and did a bunch of dope and everything. At that age, you would wonder why in the world did that happen. He just died out by a damn river, and we just almost ruined this guy's life down there in Costa Rica. So,
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
what goes on?
Yeah, it's. I don't think we was wrong on chasing Anthony in Florida, though.
No, that's crazy what happened there. You know what? Everybody,
Yeah.
but here's the thing: is everybody in the world would want a lawyer like Baez if you were, in trouble, right? I mean, because he was able to do some snake oil salesmanship there, and it worked.
Bias was a nobody before that case. I remember the first time
Yeah.
the first day I went down there and everything, and sat down with Casey, and Casey told me my lawyer's going to be here in a minute, but can I get you something to drink and this, that, and the other? And just did small talk, and then Jose Bias comes sits down beside me and told me, said, "Man, I'm so glad you're here. I want you to do whatever you can do to find little Kaylee, but don't ask my client any questions about her daughter." And it's like, oh boy, that's great.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But I mean, he did great in the trial, even though that was his first one. I mean, in terms of when I say
no,
great,
Yeah, he did. He did. I mean, he hit way below the belt about George Anthony and sexually molesting her.
Yeah.
She had to learn how to lie and this, that, and the other. And it was like, yeah, and then the stupidest jury in the world to go ahead and find you're not guilty.
Man, you sound just like me. I've said that exact same thing about 50 times.
Yeah. Yeah. That surprised me more than O.J. Simpson. That one surprised me more than O.J., but...
yeah, especially her behavior, too. It's like, some of the wording, that...
Well, then I filed that lawsuit against her. Because we spent $119,000 on that search. That's what we spent.
Wow.
So, and again, we don't ask families for anything. But when Jose Bias got up there and said, well, the reason Casey never reported little Kaylee missing, because she was never missing. She drowned in a pool and blah, blah, blah. And then when she was found guilty, it was like, all right, you know what, these people, they fund us and they support us to look for missing people. She was never missing. So I filed that lawsuit, and I didn't think we was ever going to get any money. I didn't file it over the money, but in the state of Florida, you don't have the Fifth Amendment rights in a civil suit like you do in a criminal investigation. So we're still going to try to be the voice for little Kaylee. And then it came right down to the time to start doing depositions and stuff. And Mark White's my attorney says, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to let you make the choice. He says, you're going to come down here and do depositions. You're going to be here at least a week. Then you're going to go back. We're going to go to trial. The trial's probably going to last a couple months. And it's that money so I can sit in a motel room and sit in a courthouse and go through all this stuff. I said, so no, let's just see if we can reach some type of a out-of-court settlement. Well, of course, they jumped on that, and I actually got to sign agreement from Casey that they agreed to pay us $75,000 in case Casey ever came up with any money. So it wasn't a judgment or anything. So, and I remember my last interview, I said, I don't care if she comes up with $75,000. I said, that girl's never going to give us 75 cents. So then then about a year ago, I got certified letters in every mailbox that I have from her attorney that she filed bankruptcy against me anyway. So.
Oh, man. Jeez. Wow. Yeah, I mean, she literally got away with murder, It's amazing.
She did. So, anyway.
Let me ask you one thing I was going to say about the Echo case one last time. I was thinking, see, her card and everything's at home, so I don't know if I was thinking maybe they should do one of those cell phone data dumps off of a tower that's in that area, and then you can
Well, you know what? I know they're doing a lot, and literally the sheriff started telling me some stuff that they was going to do, and I told him, I said, Sheriff, I said, let me ask you a favor. Do not tell me things that are going on in this investigation. I said, and the reason I don't want to know now is because if anything should leak, it is not coming from me. I says, when and if you get all the information you're looking for and you need us up there, call me. Then you can tell me why we're going to be in what areas and so on and so forth. I said, but if anything should leak, I don't want you calling me up and saying, hey, did you tell this person something and blah, blah, blah. And so Yeah, I know they're working on some things, and I told the sheriff I don't want to know what it is. When you get to that point, you want to call me. We're there.
Yeah, that's interesting. In my what I do, it's the exact opposite. Like I wish they would just tell me everything that they're doing. You know, because I'm actually trying to figure out the case sort of on my end, and I can't do it without really. I mean, that's just we speculate on facts on my channel, so you know.
So yeah, I just I've stopped several detectives from giving me information, and it's for that whole reason. Now, when you get something that's pretty concrete, and you got an area, and I don't care if it's 7 different areas and stuff. Let's go over it. We'll recon it. We'll go ahead and search it. We'll see what resources we need to bring in and stuff, and then it's okay to start telling me why. But again, prior to that, I don't want to know, because if anything leaks, then they're always looking at who leaked this damn information, and I don't want them putting a finger on me. Yeah. And then I've got wonderful people in our organization. We've done an incredible job, but people are humans. So if I say it to this person, and then this person says it to another person, don't tell them, don't tell anybody. But yeah, Tim told me, sheriff told him this about the case and everything. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, people are just not capable of staying quiet in this type of stuff. So, I don't want one of our people to go ahead and say something, and then yes, it is coming back to me because I said something. And so, yeah, I'd rather they work out all the bugs and all the investigative end of it and everything, and then say, hey, we got some things. Can you come up here? Let's sit down and talk. I'll tell you why we need to be searching these areas. And I'll say, yes, sir, not a problem. I've worked some cases before, and we didn't make a lot of headway. And I went to a detective and said, you know what, listen, I became pretty good friends with this guy. And I think I might be able to get something out of him. And I can guarantee you, and this is 100% a fact, that 4 different times myself, I got with the person of interest, and they told me where the body was or led me to the body. I remember one case I did, Sylvia Delgado. There was to get that case in a million years. And Sylvia disappeared on a Saturday night. Her and her husband went out for their 19th wedding anniversary, and they got called in that case on Sunday. Within the first 2 hours, I knew Hector had something to do with something. He became my best friend. He was at the command center every day, helping us map stuff out, helping assign searchers in and everything, and shaking everybody's hand. Thank you for being here. And Friday, Hector did not show up. At about 11 o'clock, he called me up, crying his eyes out, and I said, no, I can't show up today. It's just too painful. Please find my Sylvia. Hector, I'm doing the best I can do, buddy. I understand. He called me about 4 o'clock, crying his eyes out, and I said, Hector, it's Friday. We're going to shut down a little bit early because tomorrow people aren't working, and we're going to have a whole lot more of our members out here searching. I said, I'm one person that knows what you're going through. How about if I come pick you up and we drink a beer? And that's when I drank beer, and it kind of paid off that night. So Hector and me probably drank 6 beers at this little ice house, talked a lot about God, talked a lot about Laura, talked a lot about Sylvia, and then, how important after 17 months it was that Laura's little body was found, and I could then try to put my life back together. And I was driving Hector home. I got about a mile from his house, and I pulled my truck over the curb and looked him dead in his eyes. Said, Hector, I know, and you know, you murdered Sylvia. I said, I do not think you're a cold-blooded killer. I think you got a lot of remorse. And I said, you know what? Right now it's between you and God. I said, I don't even want to know where she's at right now, because I got to go home and get some sleep, because I got to be wide awake tomorrow so I can find your wife. I said, but now when I take you home, I said, you need to get in your bed. You need to turn on all your lights. You need to grab your Bible, because I got a feeling you and God have a lot of things to talk about. And And I said, you know what, buddy, I anticipate you'll call me tomorrow. And Hector never said a word. I drove that other mile, pulled in his driveway. Hector was getting out of my truck. He got out of my truck. He started shutting the door. He opened back up. He looked at me and said, Mr. Miller, do you really think I murdered Sylvia? I said, Hector, that's between you and God. Talk to you tomorrow. 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon, he called me crying his eyes out. Mr. Miller, please go into the Baytown Bridge. Killed my wife. Then I had to testify his murder trial.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was he saying that made you, did you think he was involved the whole time, or was it during the beers that you were drinking?
No, it was the whole time.
Huh. Doesn't that make you nervous sometimes? Like, especially when you told him, I mean, he could go nuts on you, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, after that week, I got to know him pretty well. I knew he wanted to get something off his chest. So I just treated him with kid gloves, and again, we talked about the God issue, and I'm a firm believer in that. And I think when I told him it was between him and God, that's what got to his conscience, and he decided he needed to call me.
So
I didn't judge him.
What ended up happening in that one? I don't remember the case, but it
was their 19th wedding anniversary. They went out for dinner, and Sylvia said, Hector, I don't want to be with you anymore because, I've got a girlfriend, and I realized that I'm lesbian.
Oh, wow. So he just snapped and killed her?
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow. Jeez. That's crazy stuff. Let me ask you something. I'm recording this call,
okay.
And I was wondering, is there any parts that you don't want me to play? Like maybe.
No.
You're okay with even the hillbilly part?
I like the hillbilly part.
Okay. Yeah. Doesn't sound like you had a good experience over there at Fort Hood. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I kind of like that part.
Okay, I'll leave it.
And that's part of my sense of humor, so they can take it as offensive or just say no.
Good.
Turning it halfway into a joke. So however they want to take it, I got pretty thick skin.
Well, hell, I'll leave this part in too. That was funny.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, hey, it was really great talking to you. Maybe every once in a while we could talk about other cases that that are already solved that you worked on, and keep putting your name out there in the public. And then we'll always talk about how you can donate it here and there, and see if we can get some more fundraising going on too.
Yep. So
well, anyways, hey,
we're
thanks.
Struggling. We're struggling, but I made that promise to God and Laura years ago. We'd never leave a family alone if there's anything we could do.
That's amazing what you guys do. You guys seem to always show up at when there's missing people. I don't know how you are always there. Do you fly to these places, or are you driving?
Many I fly, many I drive, and again, we're not experts in this field. If we were experts, there would not be this many missing people still on our website years and years later.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not slandering law enforcement now, but I'm not saying anything good about Lake City Police Department, because when I reported Laura missing, and I asked them to look out there on Calder Drive, because that's where Heidi Fye's body was found, and Heidi was last seen at the same payphone, and they just kept saying Laura was a runaway, and it was a runaway. I listened to law enforcement. I listened to them. I didn't know what to do my own self. So, you know what? I think I let Laura down because I didn't know what to do. So I think one of the reasons we do as good as we do now is because what I did not do for my own daughter. So, I've carried a lot of grief over that over the years. I believed in somebody that I shouldn't have believed in. I'm still going through some things today with Laura's remains. This is going to be the third time I have to bury the same daughter because mistakes made in a medical examiner's office, Lake City Police Department.
Mm-hmm.
When I got that news back in October about some more Laura's remains, I remember looking at the FBI and at our DA in Galveston County and our assistant DA, and I told him, I said, guys, in the perfect world, a child's supposed to bury their parent. I said, unfortunately, things happen when a parent has to bury their child, but do you guys really think it's right now? I got to bury the same child for the third time because of your all's mistakes, and so that's a whole nother story, another day. So, I still struggle this many years later, and
that case is still unsolved, right?
it's still unsolved, and it's no secret. I told the lead investigator at Lake City Police Department less than a year ago that real detectives could have had this stuff figured out in 35 days, and you people are still butchering this case 35 years later. When they got Jane and Janet Doe identified, I said, oh my God, I knew Janet Doe, Donna Perdome. I said back in 1988, Larry Nesbitt worked for me. He dated her. I met her once or maybe twice. Then all of a sudden, I became the main suspect in the case out there. I begged and pleaded for him to do my DNA and do a polygraph test, and they said, oh, we're not going to do that. Then they made it public that I was a suspect, and then only probably 6 weeks ago, I took the polygraph test, and the polygrapher went and told the detective after I took the polygraph test, he said how this works is a +4 is passing, a -2 is failing, anything in between, there's probably just some inconsistency somewhere. He said, I've been doing polygraph tests 23 years. He said the highest passing score I ever got was a +8. He said that person in there, Mr. Miller, you think is a suspect in this case, did a +12, the highest passing score I've ever got in my entire life. I went in and I told that the detective said, well, I still want to ask you some questions. And I said, no. I said, I've worked with you people for 30 plus years. You haven't followed one single thing. Clyde Hedrick murdered these girls. I said, you guys blew it early on Ellen Beeson case. And I said, the only thing you have done is given Clyde Hedrick a green light to continue doing what he's doing best, and that's murdering our girls. I said, so, if there's ever lies ever told about Calder driving these girls, it came from Clyde Hedrick and the Lake City Police Department. And I said, and there is not enough hydrogen peroxide in this state for your police department to wash the blood off of your hands. I said, so don't ever call me again. I said, but trust me, I'm not going to sit back and be quiet.
Yeah, what made it, you have the suspect, you know your case way better than probably anybody does, but what makes you think that that individual is the person?
Well, Clyde Hedrick got Heidi Fye. She worked at the Texas Boone. He got Ellen Beeson, and he got Ellen Beeson out of the Texas Boone and killed her. There's only 2 houses between my house and Clyde's house. He knew Laura well. When Clyde was in jail, he said how he had sex with Laura prior to killing her, and when he was in jail before he went to trial, he admitted his own self how he murdered Ellen Beeson. We're looking at Clyde Hedrick's on a case right now in DeLand, Florida from 1977. Clyde Hedrick is probably good for 20 cases. Clyde Hedrick is a serial killer.
Is he in prison right now? Wait, you're
2013, and under the old law back then, he's mandatory release, early release in December of next year.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I filed a wrongful death suit against him. We're going to be doing his deposition, and I almost guarantee you I know more about Clyde Hedrick than Lake City Police Department knows about him, and I've got a very attractive female attorney because Clyde Hedrick is used to controlling women. Well, he's going to have a pretty woman controlling him during a deposition. So we're turning the table around on him.
Wow. That's a good move. Well, I'd like maybe I'll look into just the generic part of your case, so I just at least know it a little bit, and then maybe we can have a conversation at some point.
Sure. We can do it sometime. All right, my phone just pinged and
Yep.
it is about to die.
Okay. Hey, well, listen, Tim, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me. It was really interesting. Good stuff in there.
All right. Any of them hillbillies listening out there, go send a donation.
All right. Hillbillies donate. All right. Have a good one.
All right,
See ya.
bye.
Bye.